I am Bob Copperstone, a former newspaper journalist, and I like to write stories that mostly deal with my childhood in the mid-20th century. During my 80-plus years, I have accumulated troves of facts and memories as I experienced them here in Wahoo and surrounding Saunders County. These vignettes are presented as true and factual to the best of my recollection, and I wish to pass them on before they blink, flicker, and go dark forever. This is Growing Up Wigwam, as told by Uncle Bob. Empty bird's nest grief. It's taken the orphan baby robin such a long time to die. It's breaking my heart, and I feel helpless, but I don't know how to save them. They seem doomed to die, and to my horror and remorse, I'm partly, if not completely, to blame for their peril. In a grim ritual, I check the nest every couple of hours, hoping to see the mother robin feeding and warming her babies. She hasn't returned, though, and the babies are slipping away, weaker and hardly moving. Yesterday afternoon, soon after I discovered the nest and looked in, they mistook my shadow for their parent, straining their heads upward with gaping beaks, cheeping frantically for food. I kept vigil at my window far from the nest so I wouldn't cruelly get the baby's parental expectations up, and hoping to see the mother arrive giving nourishment. As night fell, my panic increased, but the baby spent the night alone, naked to the elements and hungry. Next morning I looked out the window and my heart sank. No mother yet. They were still huddled together, terribly weak and barely moving. One of them feebly opened its beak, but just for a second or two, then he sagged back down. The fledglings are in a down-lined nest of soft grasses, perched atop some lawn tools under the eaves of my garage, about eye level. It was an odd place for a nest, but it was camouflaged and just fine until I blundered in. I was poking around the tools hanging on the garage wall. I was making a bit of a ruckus and was startled to come across the nest, almost right before my very eyes. I didn't realize until later that a robin, probably a parent, was squawking at me from a nearby rooftop. I didn't touch the nest, but it was too late. The damage was done, and the parents undoubtedly abandoned this nest to build a new, safer one, as mandated by their stern mistress, Mother Nature. My death vigil continued as I racked my brain to think what I should do. Maybe the humane thing to do is to end their misery, and mine, myself. But I can't. I just can't. I don't know the first thing about feeding baby birds, and what if my interference scares away the parents? Would I simply be prolonging their deaths? It had been about 22 hours since I blundered into their lives and cut off their food supply. All I can do now is watch. It was cool and drizzling outside. The starving babies were sheltered under the eaves, so at least they could stay dry until they die. This is the epilogue. I'm sorry to say that I had lost track of this sorrowful saga when I was away for a couple of days. When I caught up, the nest was empty. There were some loose down and feathers on the ground beneath, and the mangled remains of only one of the babies. There was no way to tell exactly how the babies met their fate, outside of the certainty that a cat or other predator did the dirty deeds at the end. I did feel an uneasy relief that I wasn't proud of, though, to be shed of the heart-wrenching ordeal. I believe the execution by cat would have been the quicker death. But I'm left with a nagging uncertainty. Did I do the right thing? Should I have fed them? Should I have given them more shelter? Put them out of their misery? I'll never know now, will I? The cute little rodents and how they stunk. I actually like the idea of mice and other rodents. They're cute. Mickey Mouse cute sometimes. I love their ears, their bright beady eyes, their twitching little noses and whiskers. When I was about 8 years old, I wanted a hamster pet. Bob Smith, my friend Raymond's older brother, was breeding and selling them, along with a veritable zoo full of other beasts and fowl creatures over the years. If I remember right, he wanted 50 cents apiece, so I bought a couple. It might have been $1.50. We scrounged up a cage and exercise wheel and set the hamsters to work entertaining us kids. Only a day or so later, we thought it would be fun to take them out of the cage and race them along the bedroom wall baseboard. The hamsters, being basically wild and yearning to be free, took off like rodents out of hell along the baseboards. Like a flash, they immediately ducked into a previously unnoticed mouse hole and were never seen again. We didn't even have them long enough to give them names, and we never did know who won the Wahoo 500-inch hamster race. As I said, I am fond of hamsters and other rodents, including squirrels, chipmunks, beavers, prairie dogs, porcupines, groundhogs, and even rats. In fact, when he was a kid, my cousin in California, Jack Husabo, persisted in loving the heck out of a pet white rat, even though his mother, my Aunt Betty, was terrified of the species. And one time I was rummaging around an old tree stump and uncovered a nest with a mother mouse and 4 babies clinging to her teats. That presented a quandary. Should I exterminate the pests, babies and all? As a small boy, I had spent many summers at my aunt and uncle Clara and Jerry Bartushek's farm near Ceresco, so I recognized a farmer's corn crib enemy when I saw one. But I didn't have the bloodlust a farmer might have to destroy a hated foe, so I set about rescuing Mama Mouse and scooped up the whole family into a paper cup and moved them safely away. But one winter, in an incident that really tested my feelings about rodents, a family of field mice decided to come in from the cold and set up housekeeping in the house that I just bought in Wahoo. A mammal-killing frost was setting in, and I was conflicted over what to do about my uninvited squatters. Back at my house, I tried to cohabit with my little intruders. After all, how much can they eat? Answer, everything they can get their cute, thieving little paws on. If I stayed real quiet at night watching television, the mice would venture out to forage for crumbs on the floor, and I'd catch a quick glimpse of them scurrying about. Kind of entertaining, actually. That kept on for a few days, and I was getting used to my new roommates. Maybe this could work out after all. Unfortunately, the first little guys began to sublet their new boarding house to numerous others of their kind. One day I moved the toaster, revealing a mess of damp, chewed paper nesting, sprinkled generously with the cutest mouse mini turdlets and accompanying moisture, along with the darlingest stink. I finally had to face the fact that I no longer had a friendly real estate arrangement with a rodent, I had an infestation. The rear of the refrigerator yielded a similar cache of excrement, and I knew then that mouse leases was up. I couldn't continue to patrol the house carrying a bucket of soapy water, pine sol, and bleach looking for nests. So I served an eviction notice in the form of some ingenious decon traps, which did the job needlessly and odorlessly. I feel badly about it to this day, but a landlord's got to do what a landlord's got to do. I know decon is probably cruel, as it causes internal hemorrhaging and a long, drawn-out death for pests, but it saves me from seeing the mangled, rotting mouse carcasses and evidence of the death throes. The decon is also odorless and relatively safe for pets and babies. However, I didn't fully escape the unpleasant aspects of the extermination task, as I had hoped. One day, about a year later, to my lip-curling horror, I discovered a tightly rolled ad magazine behind the living room sofa. I unfolded the newsprint pages to reveal the dried-out, mummified but odorless corpse of one of my former tenants. It had crawled in there to die, just as the decon ads promised they would. The entire chore is behind me now, and I am able to keep the mice out each autumn with ample decon applications. But I do have just a twinge of remorse for the cuties I have killed. Just enough guilt to be haunted by their Disney image ghosts. When I die and, with luck, go to heaven, I can only hope that the human's paradise is far away from the mouse heaven. I don't want to be haunted by the ghosts of my former rodent roommates, who undoubtedly carry a hefty decon grudge against their evil, murderous former landlord. To be continued.
Growing Up a Wigwam is written by Bob Copperstone and produced by Chris Beatty. Everything is recorded in lovely Wahoo, Nebraska. If you've enjoyed this and want some more stories about Uncle Bob and other things, please subscribe at chrisbeatty.com.